Okay, recording started.
Hey guys, this is the IABDM with our meeting for tonight, which is our Zoom meeting is all about 5G, and we have an expert on here that you will want to hear. This is Sue Whitaker, and Sue is an international speaker. You have no idea how important this lady is, and she has tons of information to share with us. So I'm just going to turn it over to Sue.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. And thanks for inviting me on. IABDM is my favorite conference to attend, so I'm excited to be a part of this. When we are out and about anywhere in the world now, people are all carrying cell phones. And all the cell phones have what's called triangulation. So in case the cell phone wants to know where I am, so I can go and get a restaurant that's close, it zooms in on me with triangulation. And the reason that can work is 4G, 5G, and this phone that you're carrying around is giving off EMFs. The EMFs are frequencies that we can't see, but some of us can feel. They are very dangerous to us. And some people say, well, I just put a button on my phone because that's no problem. And if you think about it, if you're in your house and the only thing in your house that's giving off EMFs was your phone, then that would work perfectly. But because your phone is not the only thing in your home or your office that's giving off EMFs, it gets to be pretty dangerous. Everything that is electronic in any way gives off EMFs. So your phone, your router, your TV, your microwave, your x-ray machine, even your dental chair that can go up and down when it's being used, it's giving off EMFs. So all day long in an office, you are being bombarded with EMFs. And so to have a button on your phone, even if they did work, wouldn't make much sense because everything around you is working. So I've had people say to me, well, I take care of my smart meter and I have this crystal or that crystal. Well, crystals are okay, but they don't do the trick either. They're going to help and they'll cut down some. But let's say my entire house has all crystals everywhere and I have no EMFs. What about my neighbor whose smart meter is pointed right at my house? Well, I'm still getting EMF. And remember, an EMF is a wave. So it's just like when you turn on your radio, you don't see those signals, but you can get a radio anywhere. If you walk around with an EMF meter, you'll find that the EMFs are just about everywhere. They're in our entire environment. They're being beamed down from above. I think Elon Musk put up 60 satellites, I believe, last month. And in those satellites, he's running 5G. Well, 5G is being beamed down on us. And 5G is different than the 4G because you have to have so many more of them. The wavelength is such that you have to have a lot more frequency of these 5G things. So they're putting them in Kleenex box-sized boxes, black boxes, and they're putting them on light poles. Well, when you're anywhere in a city that has this 5G, it's all around you. You can't get away from it. There's nothing you can do to stay healthy in an environment like that because we know that it's radiation that's coming into us. The EMFs put a body out of balance, and when the body is out of balance, it causes many things. One of the things that we hear so often is, I can't hold my cell phone, it hurts my hands. And so they might have it in some kind of a package or some kind of a wallet-like thing that supposedly gets rid of EMFs. But it causes sleep disturbances and insomnia. A lot of people tell me they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're not sure why. It causes a lot of headaches. Think about people around you and people complaining about having headaches, but yet they didn't used to have headaches and suddenly they have headaches all the time. It also causes depression and depressive symptoms. You know, there's a lot of depression, and I don't mean just because we're all in lockdown. Of course, for us, that's been kind of fun because we're staying home. We're not doing a lot of traveling, and we're doing a lot of webinars though, because we feel like we still have to reach out and talk to people. But depression, remember, starts with the thoughts in your head, but you can't help it if you're being bombarded with EMFs. Also, there's tiredness and fatigue. That's something that I see a lot of. And dysphagia, I think is how you say it, where you're itchy. You feel like you're itching. People say that when they put their cell phones in their back pocket, they'll take it out, set it on the counter, and then they feel their cell phone vibrating. That's not good. Those are nerves that are being affected by those EMFs. Lack of concentration. How often is it that you say, now what was I doing again? Or you get up and walk off from something you're doing, and then you get somewhere else in your office and go, wait a minute, why did I leave over there? It changes the memory. For women, we have enough issues because of the heavy toxicity that's in us. When we turn about 65 to 70, we start changing from estrogen to testosterone. And when we do, we know that women go into dementia. But it goes even faster. The metal toxicity and the toxicities in us, when they're hit with EMFs, we're just bombarded. And there's no place for our body to get away from any of this. It also causes dizziness. I've had several dentists come to me and tell me that they've been very dizzy. When you think about it, this makes perfect sense because we have no place that we can go where there are no EMFs. It also causes irritability. Now, I think part of that has to do with staying inside, all this lockdown. But then they say it causes a loss of appetite or a weight gain. And when you talk to people, they'll say, oh my gosh, I'm having weight trouble. Nauseous. A lot of people are talking about being very nauseous. Your skin burns and is tingly. Those all sound like neurological disorders. That's the beginning of all the neurological things that we see. There's changes in the electrocephalogram, which measures the electrical activity in the brain. You can actually watch on a machine and see completely, totally different activity happening in the brain. And the more heavy metals you have in you or co-infections a person has in their bodies, the worse the EMF is. Okay, so whatever you have inside of you is affected by all of this EMF. We know that if we have metal in our mouths, that when we put the cell phone up to our mouth to talk, up to our head, the amalgam starts to gas off. And, all day long, I talk to people about being very careful with cell phones. And, they don't make the connection that they need to get rid of the mercury. Well, that's number one. But then if you read in your phone, you go down inside of settings, you go down into the legal part, it says, whatever you do, don't put this near your head. Now that's in a cell phone, that's in their legal piece, because they know this is so dangerous. The EMFs are right against your brain. And so, the devices that you see where parents have a little 2-year-old or younger with a big iPad in front of them and the kid is sitting watching something, very, very dangerous. That all those EMFs are going right at them. And so any of the technology, I really highly recommend that you don't get near kids' brains. We do toxic burden scans. My company actually does a scan to help you with toxic burdens. And the reason that's so important is those EMFs come in. If you have heavy metals and those heavy metals are down in the cells go to talk to each other, they can't, because the metal particles keep them from talking to each other. And so we do toxic burden scans and we show you if you have heavy metals or bacteria or chemicals in your body, and then we help you detox from those. the Earth's protective envelope is being destroyed. We have all those satellites out there that are beaming all this stuff around. And when that happens, it's pulling apart the oxygen. It actually ionizes the oxygen, which means that the O2 gets pulled apart. Well, when the O2 is pulled apart, you cannot breathe that. That is not for respiration. And so we see a lot of that happening out with just everything that's out in the atmosphere. We've been actually auditing dental businesses and homes. We take a set of what's called L rods. They're 2 metal bars and they're on a copper swivel. And we'll walk around, and I did one or just north of Atlanta just before the lockdown. And I went in her dental office and we walked everywhere inside. And then the minute you walk across the property line, these cross and say that it's dangerous with EMFs. But inside of my dental offices, there's nothing like that. The dentists are not having to deal with EMFs all day long. So we actually audit. We were at a home and we walked to what we thought was a property line, and we started up a little hill, but the minute we got to the gate, the negativity started on the EMFs with the L rods. And the owner said, "Oh, that's really funny." He said, "You caught me in something I did that was illegal." And we said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, I put my gate right on the property line and I wasn't supposed to be here." But we can tell, because when we're auditing, we're looking for all the negative energy. And the negative energy is outside of the office or the home like a bubble. There won't be any EMFs on the inside. Now, if you're interested in seeing a video that I produced, I went down on the Oregon coast. I went to an electric plant. It's a pretty major one. It used to run a big mill, and I cleared all the EMFs from it. You can watch that at aclearbenefit.com. So it's just at aclearbenefit.com. The one thing we do know that's even more scary than the 4G and the 5G that we know are making a lot of people sick right now is that 6G is on the way and 10G is on the way. It just makes my heart sick to think that we're just going to continue destroying what we have. When I checked, my program will also cover the 5G, the 6G, and the 10G. I was reading something from Sally Fallon Morell. She's at Nourishing Traditions. Most of you are familiar with her. And when I read this, I couldn't believe it. She said, "Today we face the installation of 5th generation wireless, 5G. It's broadcast in the gigahertz range, often at 60 gigahertz, a frequency that is highly absorbed by oxygen, causing the O2 molecule to split apart, making it useless for respiration." And where I went with that is, oh my gosh, the doctors in New York City are saying the CV patients are oxygen depleted like high altitude sickness. 5G is ionizing the oxygen and it's making it useless to breathe. Now that's pretty scary. And I was just reading about 6G and 10G, and they think that it will even be worse. And many of the doctors in New York City are saying that 5G is the #1 cause of coronavirus, that it's not really a virus. I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but I do know that it is very dangerous, and especially because it's in a broad bandwidth that is depleting the oxygen. And it's funny, I spoke on this this exact topic several times, 6 times or something in the last few weeks. And I noticed that there was an article written at Science for Wired Tech in 2001 stating the dangers of the 5G. Now that was clear back in 2001. And it seems like we haven't taken heed of what is being worked on as far as 5G, 6G, and 10G. As far as I know, with all of the dentists that I have on my particular plan where I negate the EMFs, no one has had coronavirus at all. That's to the best of my knowledge, because what I do is there's a wave of EMFs, and I was told to find the scalar wave that's equal and opposite. So you have basically a +1 and a -1. You negate those and it comes to 0. And that's where our oxygen should be. That's where our frequency should be. We should be aligned with the earth, not with microwaves and televisions and computers and all the things around us. And to put 5G in a category where it's depleting oxygen seems like that's really scary to me. Dawn, I'd like to open it up and ask if anybody has any questions for me.
I have, well, a comment. I know that
Good.
Dr. Voles, who's big in the implant world for the zirconia implants,
Yes.
is totally against the 5G and has commented on how it affects bone growth and how it stifles the bone growth. And I don't know what it would do if you had a titanium implant instead of a zirconium. And of course, I have a whole philosophy on titanium. I'm not for it at all.
Right.
But I know personally that I have a patient that what created my awareness about this probably a year ago. She had a 3-year-old that started urinating on herself, refused to go out of the home to even visit little friends on the street, and really was having some psychotic episodes. Tried taking her to different doctors, a urologist, couldn't find anything wrong with her. It wasn't an airway problem like most of us would think of. And then a friend of hers said something about a smart meter. Had she had a smart meter installed in her home? And so she put her in contact with someone who came out and did all the, what, you know, most people would think are voodoo-y things with the copper wires and everything else. And interestingly, she stopped all of her problems.
Wow.
And started visiting her friends. Okay, well now she is 6 and she has regressed.
Oh.
And so she called this person back and said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, tell me how close you live to a street that has white poles with orange tops on them, because those are the 5G, and let me know if your light pole has a little box on it." And sure enough, that was the issue. So they're able to do some things for her in the home, but the issue for her is she can't live inside her house. And I mean, she's got to go out in the world.
Right.
And
right.
she just seems to be very EMF sensitive.
Right. Right. Well, and you know, doctors will tell you that no matter what it is, whether it's an allergy or, you know, whatever. I was hit with formaldehyde poisoning back in 1983. And the doctors all said that about 0.5% of the population are affected to the extreme, like this little girl. And that's kind of what happened to me. Is I was affected. I was one of the people who got very, very sick and almost died. So with this little girl, I would suggest that they give me a call and I'll try to help them in any way I can. I mean, I used to teach first grade, so I can understand what it must be like to have a little girl that can't go outside. That must be so sad.
Well, and for those of you that don't think that EMF toxicity or sensitivity is a real thing, many years ago, and I wish I could remember exactly when, but with Google, you can go research this. There's a video of, I think it's a 60 Minutes program. I'm not for certain, but there's a video in the UK where a lady claimed that every time she drove by this particular area, and there were a lot of high voltage power lines, that she would have a seizure. And so they figured that was cockamamie. So what they did was they videotaped her in a bus, and all the windows are blacked out, and there's a curtain at the front. And they drove her around for quite some time, but when they got to that area, she started having a seizure.
Wow.
So that was really the first documented case. I wish we had someone on here from the UK, like John Roberts, because I don't know if you know John Roberts, but he's a dentist that's in the
Yes.
UK.
Mhm.
And I remember being at a meeting in Arizona with him probably 3 years ago at an airway meeting. And he said, Dawn, do you guys have laws about the Wi-Fi? And I said, John, if I knew what a Wi-Fi was, I might be able to tell you, but you got to fill me in here. And he said, you know, the thing that makes your internet run. And I said, oh, Wi-Fi. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. No, I don't know what rules you mean. And he said, well, in the UK, if a patient comes in and claims that they are EMF sensitive, you have to have a kill switch, which means that it takes everything down and then you're hardwired. And I said, are you kidding? We are just now building homes and schools and daycares with Wi-Fi in it so that people can watch their kids.
Right.
It is amazing how behind the United States is in this type of information.
Well, and we've known for a long time. It's not like it's brand new information. I think that you know, we are not as, I don't know, we need more people like Del Bigtree, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We need advocates that are out there speaking against this, because it's hitting all of us. And if you think about the lady that was highly sensitive, if she was one of your patients and she came into your office and she started having a seizure, it's really your responsibility.
Yeah.
And as a dentist, we need to make sure that none of our offices have EMFs in them. If we're going to be biological and we're going to be holistic, then we need to think about the whole body, and we need to really be considerate of those people that are highly sensitive. And what if you had in your advertisement on your home page that you don't have any EMFs in your building? That's a way to bring in some of those sensitive people. Where does a little girl go to get dental help? You know, you have to ask yourself. And if I went to a dentist and I'm real sensitive, and I felt that there was EMFs in the building, I wouldn't want to go back, because I would feel like that dentist really hasn't thought through what it is that makes his office, his or her office, holistic, because it's dangerous.
Now, there are some things I know that you can do on your phone to make your phone safer, like putting it in airplane mode.
Yes.
So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. You can take your phone and you can put it in airplane mode. However, it is still giving off EMFs. You can turn it off and it is still giving off EMFs. But your phone isn't the biggest thing. What do you think, Dawn, might be the biggest EMF emitting piece of equipment in your home?
Refrigerator.
Oh, good guess. Most people guess a microwave. It's actually the hair dryer that you hold directly up against your head. And they've known this for a very long time. It's not new. There was a fire department in Tacoma, Washington, and two very world-renowned specialists went there. And I think there were like 36 firefighters or something like that, and 28 of them had brain tumors. and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And when the experts got there, they said, what is it out of these? I think it's 4 different crews, or you know how they share time. Anyway, they had not all been to a fire. They'd not all eaten the same food. Nothing was the same except where they slept. And where they slept was a wall. Their heads were against the wall. And on this side is where they charged all of their equipment. And most of those firefighters are now dead because they didn't know in time. It's really sad.
I said a refrigerator because working in EMS like I did for a while as a paramedic, your refrigerator has 60 cycle interference. And so when it cycles on, which it does throughout the day.
Yes.
And as you know, EMFs don't go in just one direction. Right. So if your bedroom is above the refrigerator or behind the refrigerator, to the side of the refrigerator, then you're going to be getting a constant bombardment of EMS. If the refrigerator cycles on, and we were working a code, so someone their heart has stopped and we've got a monitor on them. As soon as the 60 cycle interference kicks on, the EKG wigs and you have no idea what rhythm they're in. So you have to drag that person into another room away from the refrigerator, or you have to pull the refrigerator away from the wall and unplug it, one or the other. So I do know that is a big issue. Interestingly, when I was going through Capital University, there was someone there who was doing their thesis work on kind of like EMFs. Mm-hmm. And when I was listening to him pitch what he wanted to do, I thought, this is ridiculous. You're going to do your thesis work on this? He bought his son a fish at Walmart. He took the fish home. They floated the bag in the water. It was fine. They opened it up. The fish died. So he scooped it out, took it back to Walmart, said, you sold me a bad fish. I need another fish. Got another fish, same process, took it home, floated it in the tank, opened it up, fish died. Now he's angry. Takes the dead fish back and talks to the manager. You have sick fish. I'm frustrated that I'm trying to get a fish in my tank and it keeps dying. And he said, now, when you walk out of the store, you do walk out of the store with the bag up in the air, right? And he said, no, why would I do that? And he said, well, the fish come in through the back, but we have theft detectors that basically nuke the little fish.
Oh my gosh.
And so it made him start thinking, and his thesis work was on things like your wife comes home and you're sitting in your favorite chair and she pops the garage door opener. There is some energy that goes through the wall, through you to the other side. Now, when I was growing up, I was a remote control. My dad would tell me, change the channel, and I'd have to get up and go to the TV set and change the channel. But nowadays, someone sitting behind you pushes the button, and voila, some energy passes through you to the TV set. You're right, we are bombarded in our home by EMFs.
Yes, yes. Well, we have a question here from Teresa. She says that you know, as dentists, we can no longer practice without computers and the like. Everything we do uses electronics. Our practice management software, our insurance claims, our TV, our internet, even making our crowns, we use electronics. Yes. And so we need to be able to mitigate the EMFs because modern medicine and dentistry needs the electronic component. The bioscan Dawn and my doctor use is computerized, like everything is electronic nowadays. That's really true. And so what I do in my business is I, from a distance, take and mitigate all the EMFs in all the businesses of all the dentists that are my clients. And I couldn't even guess how many clients I have, and they're all over the world. And I do it from my home office. It's very woo-woo. I have a script and I read the script, And then, like I said, I go in and I practice and I check my own dentist. And then when I travel to different conferences, I make arrangements ahead of time to meet the dentists that are in that area so I can go in and check their offices. And a lot of them have actually purchased little rods like this. They're about $60 a piece. And they go and they check behind me as well, because they don't want to be EMF'd. So they make sure that they are checking behind me to make sure that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. And I do that for $100 a month. And right now I'm not charging the dentist for that. Their businesses aren't open, so there's no, I'm not doing anything for them there. I'm still working for their families, and I'm keeping their homes clear. And anybody that would like to get on a home plan for free, I'll give you a whole month. If you hear this, text me at 503-851-7927. Or
So can you put that in the chat
oh,
box
sure,
so that it shows up in there?
Yeah, 503-851-7927. Or you can email me at sue@wsenergetics.com. And you're welcome to have a free month here while we're sitting at home. I'll gladly do that for everybody. And you can see if you feel a difference. And if you have little kids, if you think of this is the way I see it. We're this size, they're little. And if it's affecting us as adults, imagine what it's doing to kids. One of the first things that Dr. Klinghardt does when he goes to detox any of these kids that are out there is he takes that he takes the EMFs, and he tells parents, you got to paint the inside of your house, paint the outside of your house, do all this stuff. And that's really, really expensive. Whereas with me, it's $100 a month for a dentist's office. It's $15 a month for a family. Covers everybody that lives there, including all the pets. And if you travel, your hotel rooms will all be clear when you get there. Now, I'll tell you something from Eric Zelinsky. Is that how?
Zaremski, yeah.
Zaremski. He said to me, what time did you get to the joint meeting? And I said, why? And he said, well, there was a big TV antenna right outside my room. And he said, it was really bothering me. He said, about 2:30 yesterday afternoon, it completely quit. And I said, it's funny, I got to my room about 2:30 yesterday afternoon, and I made sure that thing was turned off because it was huge. It was right outside our rooms in Dallas. And I didn't want anybody to get sick. And so I just turned it all off so that we're not bombarded. We can't be bombarded with EMFs. We just can't be. Our bodies cannot hang on. And when we do scans from biofeedback machine, you should see what happens. We've got high levels of all of the toxins that are around us. And then we have EMFs, and many people are very EMF sensitive and they don't even know it. On the biofeedback machine that I use, it tells us, and people see that they're not allergic, but the EMFs are stressing their bodies, and they're stressing all of us, and it's all the time.
I had a couple other comments on here. I know at one point in time I had an EMF meter and I kept loaning it out to patients, and finally somebody kept it. I don't know. But interesting story. I used it at my home. I wanted to move my son's bunk bed, which would have been a huge mess to disassemble. And so I went up to check out the room, and the wall that I wanted to move it to, the EMF went crazy. And so Toby was happy because he didn't have to move the bed. But we did end up with a small electric fire in the wall socket on that wall, which is just interesting.
Yes.
But I took the EMF meter over to my parents' home and checked it, and everything was fine. There was nothing wrong. And then all of a sudden, the whole house, the meter went over the other side. And I asked my dad, did you do anything? No. I asked my mom, did you turn on the microwave? No. Did the refrigerator just turn on? No. Where were you? I asked my dad. I went back to the bathroom, and all I did was flip on the light switch. They had a bad ballast.
Oh.
And it was easy enough to change. All they had to do was change out the light fixture. He didn't even know he had a bad ballast. But as soon as he flipped the light off, the whole house calmed down again. And as soon as he turned it back on, those are the unseen things.
Exactly. And you don't know unless you're very sensitive, or if you have a meter, or you have the L rods to just go and check. And
and the meters are cheap.
To check. Oh, no. I
Yeah.
mean, I think they're like $30, or
Yeah.
I mean, you can go get them. And Amazon, that's where I got mine. And it's just, it's just little.
Yeah.
And you
tiny
just
little
walk
thing.
around with it.
Yeah.
So
and for fun, go over by your microwave, even when it's not on.
Even when it's off. Exactly. Go to your smart meter, check it out. And if you have little kids, remember, they're getting this worse than us. Pets are getting it worse than us.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people who tell me, oh my gosh, my dog had such bad epilepsy. And I talk to veterinarians, and they say the occurrence of epilepsy in pets has just absolutely blown up because of all this scrambled electricity around us.
Yeah, and let's talk about cars now. People
Oh.
use their phones in their cars, regardless of whether it's Bluetooth or not. These waves are bouncing on the inside of your metal car, because I don't know too many people who have a plastic car. And so basically, you are sitting in a microwave.
Well, and not only that, but I had forgotten about this until you mentioned it. Cars are some of the most dangerous pieces with EMFs that there are out there. If you have an electric car, it is highly dangerous because you have all the EMFs that are coming off of all that electricity that's being used in that car. And so not only are you getting all the signals from the inside, but you're getting it from the car itself. And so electric cars are very dangerous.
I know from my own personal, if I'm on a freeway and I happen to be talking on the phone, I have to tell the person I have to call them back, because I can't think about what exit I'm supposed to take. There's just something stupid that happens to me, and I'm not able to have the same process. And so I just tell them, look, I have to call you back later. Although it is convenient to do a lot of business in the car, do you have a way to protect? Is there something that we can do to help negate some of that? Because most of us do use our phone in the car.
Well, and see, if they have my plan, all those EMFs are turned off. If they're in the car, I would say they need to have, gosh, I don't even know. I've seen shungite help a little bit, but I've also seen where people take off maybe 4 or 5 shungite bracelets. They'll set them on top of the phone and they'll say, now try it. And I try, and it's still giving off a lot of EMFs. I would say in the car, there's nothing else you could do other than my plan. And I was told to keep the plan just as reasonable as I could. $15 a month covers everybody in the whole family. You know, that's about as good as we can do. And then if you have loved ones that you want to add, they're $7.99 a month. So I try to keep it just way low. I don't want to see anybody be radiated.
Yeah. Well, anybody have any other questions about 5G? Anything as far as EMF in your office? I know I can't have I'd love to have a Faraday cage set up, you know, so that I can do perfect work, but just have to do as best we can. Well, if there's no other questions, then what I'm going to do is we'll have this recording available either this evening or tomorrow. And you guys, please send it out to your friends And Sue certainly will give you a copy so that you're able to share it as well. And
Okay.
it's very valuable information, and thank you so much for
Oh, you're welcome.
bringing it to our awareness.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thanks, guys.